On the 24th of October 1946, a horrific and terrible war criminal, who was very senior inside of the Nazi Party and Hitler's government, was led to the execution pole inside of Prague. Within the walls of Pankrak prison, Kurt Daluege, the former chief of the Order Police, was secured to a post by the executioner, who then placed a noose around his neck. He was someone who showed no remorse for his crimes during the Second World War, and he claimed he was just following the orders of Hitler. Daluege had a huge amount of power and influence inside of Germany, and he had over 120,000 police officers who were ardent in their support to Hitler at his disposal, and he technically had an army of men who became very loyal to him, and who were responsible for slaughter, execution, torture, and rounding up thousands of people who were then sent to the concentration camps. Daluege claimed that he was beloved by 3 million policemen, but what did he do during the Second World War that led to his execution? Welcome to The Untold Past. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Kurt Daluege was a First World War veteran, and he suffered a number of significant injuries during the conflict whilst he was fighting on the Western Front, and he was technically declared 25% disabled and was removed from the front lines. But he then, following his actions in the war, began to side towards more radical political groups, and he became a member of the Freikorps whilst he studied at university. He joined the Nazi Party and was member number 31,981, and was considered a very early member, as he actually joined up in 1923. Following the Munich Putsch, he continued to be a part of the Nazi Party in an underground capacity, as they were banned, and he was a member of the SA, Hitler's Brown Shirts. He rose to the position of Berlin's SA leader, and Daluege was seen as an organiser of men, and many people were very loyal to him, and he also became the deputy to Joseph Goebbels, the Gauleiter of Berlin. Daluege was ordered by Hitler to switch his allegiance from the SA to the SS, and he joined Heinrich Himmler's paramilitary group, and inside of this he was involved in spying on the SA, his former comrades, and he would keep a close eye on them in the lead up to the Night of the Long Knives. Daluege also had a number of SS men at his disposal, and he put down an attack upon the Berlin Party headquarters, and Hitler greatly celebrated him in this, and he claimed regarding Daluege, "SS man, your honour is loyalty," and this then even became the slogan of the SS, and it directly related to Kurt Daluege. Further promotions for him came, and he was made an SS leader in Nazi Germany, and Himmler took control of the southern units, with Daluege taking the north. And let's remember this was still very early on, as Hitler had not seized power. Daluege could have one day become the head of the SS, but he would go a slightly different way. He was a ruthless man, and his words and actions regarding the SA led to the Night of the Long Knives, and the executions of many SA members, his former friends, and Daluege at this point was involved in the Nazi police. He gained control and authority of the uniformed police forces, and he also commanded different groups, including the Coast Guard, Fire Brigade, and other services. The Nazi police force was reorganised in 1936, and the administrative side of this was absorbed into the SS. Himmler then appointed Daluege as the chief of the Orpo, or the Ordnungspolizei. This included practically all of Nazi Germany's law enforcement, and Daluege now had hundreds of thousands of loyal men at his disposal. The Orpo would, during the Second World War, police civilian populations inside of the occupied countries, and they got involved in the genocide and slaughter that came following the German invasions of different lands, including the Soviet Union. They were involved directly in the Einsatzgruppe and the mass murder of civilians during the Holocaust, and Daluege's men were known for their war crimes and crimes against humanity. He commanded the Orpo until 1943, and he became an SS Oberst Gruppenführer und Generaloberst der Polizei. He did have a rivalry with Reinhard Heydrich, and Heydrich, who was in control of the SIPO, or the security police, was not too keen on Daluege, and he called him an idiot or a dummy. There was a slight struggle for power between the two. Daluege's height of power saw him responsible for over 120,000 active police officers, and there were reports of brutality which emerged at the beginning of the Second World War relating to his officers. There were uniformed police battalions who were to be involved in carrying reprisals inside of Polish towns. It was stated, the leader of this battalion is ordered to take the most drastic actions and measures in the Upper Silesian industrial area, the hanging of Polish franc-tireurs, from light poles as a visible symbol for the entire population. Daluege's men were publicly executing people to strike fear into their hearts of the population, and this continued during the occupation. He was seen on the front lines of the Second World War and inside of occupied lands, and he regularly attended executions. One mass shooting in 1941 near to Brest-Litovsk saw over 4,000 civilians slaughtered by the Police Battalion 307, who were under his command, and he was seen at many mass shootings. He went further and also signed deportation orders for thousands of people who were sent to extermination and concentration camps, where they were then killed inside of gas chambers or by other means, and Daluege had the blood of thousands of people on his hands. He was close with Hitler, and his relationship with him allowed him to continue to rise through power, and following the assassination of his once rival Reinhard Heydrich, Daluege became the deputy protector of Bohemia and Moravia. He was overseeing the terror inside of Czech lands, and his aim was to cause so much fear that the Czech people worked as hard as they could in the armaments factories, which were needed to be productive for the German war effort. However, Daluege was given this role probably due to his friendship with Hitler, and following Heydrich's death, he was made the acting protector of Bohemia and Moravia. In reprisal for Heydrich's death, Daluege was involved in ordering the slaughter and attacks on the villages of Lidice and Ležáky. Both of these villages were razed to the ground, and during the Lidice massacre, 340 people were killed. Nazi forces stormed into the village on the 10th of June 1942, and under Daluege's orders they rounded up all 173 men from the village and 11 others, who were then forced against the wall of a barn as they were shot in groups of 5. Then groups of 10 were to be executed to speed up the process. The women and children of Lidice were then taken to the village school, and they were then held for 3 days, and the children were separated from their mothers. The women were forced onto a train, where they were then sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp, and 88 children were transported to Lodz. A few were selected for Germanization, and the children left were massacred, being sent to the Chelmno extermination camp, as they were gassed in the gas vans. Similar actions happened in Ležáky, as in the afternoon of the 24th of June 1942, 150 Gestapo men arrived, alongside over 300 SS men. They removed all of the inhabitants of the village and destroyed it. 33 men and women were shot, and just 13 children were spared. The slaughter was carried out all for the death of Heydrich, and inside of different police groups more execution and death occurred. There were executions of resistance members taking place all over Europe, as Nazi police forces under Daluege's command investigated, interrogated and tortured. In 1941, Kurt Daluege did fall ill, as he had a huge heart attack, and he was relieved of his command of the police force, and he then lived in a large property that Hitler gave him, and he recovered. But at the end of the war he was arrested by the British, and was actually held inside of Nuremberg as a major war criminal, and he probably should have been brought to the Nuremberg trials. But the decision was then later made to send him to Czechoslovakia, the land where many of his crimes were committed, and he was convicted of crimes against humanity. He showed no remorse for the actions of his murderous police officers, and he also had no shame for this. He claimed he was loved by 3 million policemen, and that he was only following the orders of his close friend Adolf Hitler. But he was a man who had personally ordered and witnessed mass executions of thousands of people, and he was as ardent a Nazi as there ever was. On the 23rd of October 1946, Kurt Daluege was executed within the walls of Pankrak prison in Prague, using the pole hanging method. Kurt Daluege was the Nazi chief of the Order Police, who had under his control and command a huge number of police officers who were all loyal to Hitler's cause. His men were responsible for horrific torture inside of occupied lands, and also in carrying out executions that struck fear into the hearts of the local population. He had no sympathy and offered no apology for his crimes, and he went to his death without any regrets. He is someone who should be remembered alongside other terrible Nazis, as his actions caused the deaths of thousands of people, and he even signed the deportation lists as people were sent to extermination centres. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.